What initially appeared to be a tragic accident quickly evolved into a complex investigation, with digital evidence playing a vital role in revealing the truth. Join me as we walk through the timeline, examine the suspects, and see how justice was ultimately achieved. Let's begin. Fox was unresponsive when she was discovered in her car, prompting her boyfriend to call 911. To solve the case, investigators had to gather evidence from the crime scene and trace the digital footprints left behind by the perpetrator. In 2020, she was 29 years old. She lived in Plain Township, Stark County, Ohio, with her boyfriend and her 9-year-old daughter. Her daughter was the most important person in her life. Morgan did everything she could to ensure her child had all she needed. At the time, Morgan was working as an operations manager at FedEx. She lost her life in a tragic incident that occurred early on the morning of October 28th.
She's 20. Her boyfriend discovered her in the garage of their home.
Seated in her SUV, the car door was open and Morgan had a wound on her head. He immediately called 911, reporting that Morgan had no pulse and expressing concern that she might have been struck in the head. When officers arrived at the scene, it was raining, an unfortunate condition that can easily compromise crucial evidence. Morgan appeared to be partially in and out of the vehicle. Her purse remained with her, and there were no signs of theft. There was also cash inside the vehicle, but the suspect hadn't taken that either. When officers noticed a bullet hole in the passenger side door, it became clear that Morgan had been shot. Nearby, on the property next door, they found fresh tire tracks on the grass and mud smeared on a fence, though it was unclear at the time whether these signs were connected to the incident. Upon removing Morgan's body from the vehicle, police discovered 2 bullet wounds, one behind her left ear and another at the top of her head. It appeared that someone had approached Morgan as she was getting into her car and shot her at close range. Investigators were now faced with the task of identifying who'd committed such a brutal and calculated act. Scattered on the ground near her vehicle were several items, including Morgan's cell phone. Phones often hold critical information in cases like this, and officers seized it as evidence, hoping the rain hadn't damaged it. Morgan's mother told investigators that she had spoken to her daughter over the phone the night before her death. Detectives asked whether Morgan had any known enemies, if her relationship with her boyfriend was stable, or if anyone might have wanted to harm her. Her mother explained that while Morgan and her boyfriend had experienced issues in the past, things had recently been going smoothly. She also mentioned that Morgan had encountered problems with some Maleco workers. In cases like this, investigators typically begin by examining the people closest to the victim. Because of this, police interviewed Morgan's boyfriend, who had discovered her body, and made the 911 call. He told them that he and Morgan had been living together for about a year, although he wasn't the biological father of her daughter. He said their relationship was good. He also noted that Morgan was scheduled to start work at 2:30 a.m. that day. Typically, she would wake around 1 a.m. and leave the house shortly after 2 a.m. That schedule gave Morgan enough time to arrive at work punctually. Her boyfriend explained that he woke up around 6 a.m. and noticed her car was still in the driveway, which struck him as unusual. Concerned, he went outside to check and found Morgan unresponsive in the vehicle. He immediately called 911. During questioning, he appeared visibly upset and emotional. He seemed genuinely distraught over Morgan's death and expressed a willingness to cooperate with the investigation. Detectives noted that he didn't appear to be hiding anything during the interview. He told them that the day before, Morgan had dropped her daughter off at her grandmother's house, as she typically did when working a night shift. Afterwards, she returned home, had dinner, and went to bed. Investigators took particular interest in a detail Morgan's boyfriend shared. He said that Morgan had recently clashed with some male co-workers after they took her phone from her desk. When she returned to the office, she reportedly caught them going through her personal photos and data. Furious, she confronted them and an argument broke out. With limited physical evidence at the crime scene, detectives turned to a potential alternative: surveillance footage from nearby homes. Officers canvassed the neighborhood, going door to door in search of security cameras. They discovered several discreetly placed peephole cameras, which at the time seemed like their best hope. Unfortunately, that hope was short-lived. The footage they retrieved revealed nothing suspicious. However, one fortunate break came when they discovered Morgan's phone had survived the rain and was still functional. Upon examining her messages, they found that the last person she had texted was her boyfriend. The detectives reviewed Morgan's text messages and found that her relationship with her boyfriend appeared to be stable. On October 8th, just 20 days before Herdith, Morgan had texted him about the incident at work, explaining that some co-workers had taken her phone and accessed its content. She believed they'd seen inappropriate photos stored on it. After reading the messages, investigators felt confident that her boyfriend had been honest with them. To follow up on reports of workplace issues, investigators visited Morgan's employer. They had received information from 2 separate sources suggesting she'd conflicts with some colleague. Upon speaking with her supervisor, they confirmed that the phone incident had indeed occurred and involved 3 male employees. When police reviewed the personnel files of those workers, they discovered something deeply troubling. Out of the 3 employees under scrutiny, detectives quickly ruled out 2 as unlikely suspects. However, the 3rd individual raised serious red flags. This employee, 29-year-old Jason McDermott, had previously received a formal warning for harassing a female eco-worker, behavior that persisted even after she asked him to stop. Given that Morgan typically left home around 2 a.m. to start her shift at 2:30 a.m., investigators concluded the crime must have taken place between those times, since she never made it out of her driveway. To determine Jason McDermott's movements, police requested CCTV footage from the workplace. The video revealed that McDermott didn't arrive until 2:58 a.m. that morning, nearly 30 minutes late, and that he entered the building through the back door. Because of the timing, Jason McDermott became a primary suspect. He wasn't at work during the window when the crime occurred. According to his supervisor, McDermott behaved normally after his shift ended at 9:58 a.m. that day. FedEx confirmed his employment and later issued a public statement expressing sympathy. "We continue to send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of our team member Morgan Fox in the wake of this tragic event. FedEx Ground is fully cooperating with the police during their investigation." One witness revealed that Morgan had ended a relationship with McDermott, which reportedly left him deeply upset. In response, McDermott wrote her a letter of apology and received an informal workplace warning. He was cautioned that any further misconduct would lead to termination. Meanwhile, Morgan's family struggled with uncertainty over who might be responsible. Her sister took to social media, urging anyone with information to come forward and contact the police. Someone might have been nearby and seen or heard something important. Any detail could help. Meanwhile, Morgan's 9-year-old daughter had to face the heartbreaking news of her mother's passing. At the same time, detectives continued investigating Morgan's co-workers, reviewing her phone again to check for messages that might reveal if someone had misinterpreted her or accessed her private photos without permission. During their search, they discovered letters written by Jason McDermott. Law enforcement found much of this information noteworthy. About a year before Morgan's death, Jason had brought her breakfast at work and expressed in writing that he would always be there for her. Morgan had responded with gratitude, telling him she appreciated the gesture. The text messages suggest that Morgan saw Jason as just a friend, while Jason hoped for a deeper relationship. On October 8th, Jason and some of Morgan's other co-workers went through her phone, which caused her feelings toward him to change. After that, she sent him harsh messages expressing her distrust. The following day, Morgan called Jason to discuss what had happened. Although he apologized for the situation, Morgan no longer wanted to engage with him and acted coldly. They hadn't spoken since October 24th, just 4 days before Herdith. When Jason sent her a message asking how things were going in Columbus, Morgan responded surprised. "How do you know that?" She was in Columbus with her family at the time and was taken aback that Jason seemed to know. He claimed she had told him herself. However, after that call, Morgan barely communicated with him. Additionally, police found no messages on Morgan's phone indicating she had said she was going to Columbus. Suspecting that Jason McDermott might have been following Morgan, the police brought him in for questioning. He agreed to answer all their questions. When asked if he and Morgan had ever been romantically involved, he denied it, saying she was just a friend he liked. At one point, he admitted he thought he might have had feelings for her, but after reflection, he concluded it wasn't love. Police then asked if Hick knew anyone who might want to harm Morgan. He responded that he didn't know anyone who would do such a thing. When directly confronted with the question, "Did you shoot Morgan Fox?" he firmly denied any involvement. He also consented to let investigators search his cell phone. The police hoped to uncover evidence on Jason's phone that would either support or challenge his statement. Their primary concern was tracking where his phone had been on the night Morgan Fox was attacked. If his phone showed he was near Morgan's home during the crime, it would make him the prime suspect. Reviewing the location data, they saw that Jason's phone remained near his residence from 4:00 p.m. on October 27th until 2:48 a.m. on October 28th when he left for work. This suggested he stayed at home during that period. The crime lab took possession of McDermott's phone to extract all data, including any deleted information. While waiting for the results, investigators received an anonymous tip from an unknown caller who warned them to watch a man named Mark, another individual Morgan might have been involved with. The police summoned Mark for questioning. When asked about Morgan Fox, Mark said they were co-workers. When they examined Mark's phone, investigators found nothing relevant to the case. After verifying his alibi, the police removed him from the list of suspects. As the investigation progressed, all suspects were ruled out except for Morgan's boyfriend and her co-worker, Jason McDermott. However, McDermott raised the most suspicion, so the police decided to focus their attention on him. They located him at his parents' house before bringing him in for further questioning. Officers noticed that McDermott's car had just been washed and was parked in Thegeridge. This struck them as odd since it had rained the previous day and their roads were still wet. They wondered why he felt the need to wash his car. Later, someone informed them that Jason had visited a gas station and a car wash after work on October 28th. The police reviewed CCTV footage from the gas station and saw that after work, Jason went directly to the car wash. However, something about his behavior seemed odd. After thoroughly cleaning the rear wheel wells, he surprisingly decided to clean that same area again. This struck investigators as unusual, especially since the roads were still wet from the rain. Following the car wash, Jason drove past the gas station's convenience store without going inside. Instead, he pulled over, got out of his car, and carefully inspected his Ford, walking all the way around it. Experts later confirmed that the tire tracks found to the crime scene matched those made by McDermott's car, which explained why he'd washed the tires so meticulously. The police also questioned people who knew him, and everyone was aware of the incident involving Morgan's phone. Everyone knew that after Morgan cut ties with him, Jason was deeply upset. They agreed that his focus on trying to win Morgan back changed his behavior noticeably. As police began tracking McDermott's actions, they discovered he'd attended a vigil near Morgan's home. He even posted a photo from the event on social media, accompanied by a heartfelt message and the wanted justice for Morgan. In his post, McDermott wrote, "I wish I had time to list all the ways you have changed my life. The list would be so long we'd never reach the end. Whenever I had a bad day, I knew I could always come to you as a friend. Feels so strange not being able to talk to you, and this has left a huge hole in my heart." He went on to say, "But I know you will always be watching over us, your family, your friends, and your daughter. You changed all of our lives for the better, and we will never forget you." Investigators managed to recover extensive data from McDermott's phone, including files he had intentionally deleted. His browsing history showed that he regularly visited adult video sites, suggesting a significant fixation in his conversations with others. McDermott frequently brought up Morgan and shared many photos of her. His phone was filled with pictures of her. Although he had contacted multiple women on social media and even planned meetups with some, the evidence revealed that at tone point, he ceased communication with other women and concentrated solely on Morgan Fox. He carefully tracked all of Morgan's activities. Starting in the summer of 2020, McDermott began secretly recording Morgan on his phone while at work. One of the videos was taken at Morgan's home, showing him sitting in the kitchen filming her as she washed dishes. Unaware she was being recorded, the videos and photos clearly showed that Morgan had no idea she was being watched. Jason McDermott was clearly obsessed with Morgan. but she grew distant after discovering him looking through pictures on her phone. It's possible McDermott realized he could never be with her and decided instead that she shouldn't be with anyone else. While the police already had a sense of who McDermott was, they still needed tolling him to the crime scene. A traffic camera helped them with that, capturing footage of McDermott's Ford heading toward Morgan's house at 1:38 a.m. At 2:17 a.m., McDermott turned his car around and drove away. By that time, Morgan was already dead. He was arrested a week after her death. When the police searched his car, they didn't find the weapon used in the crime. Authorities believe McDermott parked his car exactly where the tire tracks at the scene were later discovered. While Morgan was getting into her vehicle, McDermott waited outside. As she got in, he approached her and shot her twice in the head. Ethan quickly got back into his car and sped away. In his rush to flee, he left mud smeared on a white fence. He deliberately left his phone at home, but returned later to retrieve it. After the shooting, McDermott drove straight to work. Morgan's stepsister, Megan Barrett, said she had no knowledge of McDermott until his arrest. She found his unsettling social media posts deeply disturbing. If he really was the one who took Morgan's life, I think he's a very sick person. Someone seriously troubled who takes pleasure in others' pain, she said. This all began in April 2021. Throughout the investigation, McDermott maintained his innocence and never took the stand. His defense attorney, Graham, argued that the investigation was flawed from the beginning because it targeted the wrong person. Graham told the jury he's a young man who doesn't cause trouble. He works long hours, then goes home and sleep. Graham explained that McDermott found 2 FedEx co-workers with Fox's stolen phone on October 8th and admitted to looking through it with him. He also sent Fox an apology letter. Graham questioned how Fox's boyfriend, who was in the house when she died, could not have heard 2 gunshots fired from less than 10 yards away. McDermott voluntarily provided the police with his DNA, car, phone, and his parents' address without being asked. The defense also noted that McDermott's father owned several guns, which McDermott did not have access to. The judge ruled that McDermott was responsible for stalking Morgan Fox and ultimately killing her. Before the sentencing, members of Morgan's family shared their thoughts. The person convicted of this severe crime will spend life in prison. And although Judge Natalie Helper could have allowed parole after 23 years, she chose to deny that option. She stated, "While you have no prior criminal history, we believe there is a risk you will commit another offense and there is a need to protect the public." FedEx agreed to pay Morgan's family a settlement totaling $4 million with $300,000 allocated to the lawyers handling the case. Approximately $2 million was set aside in a trust and organized account to support Fox's daughter's future. Meanwhile, 6 members of the Fox family, including her parents, were to receive about $650,000. Thanks to this settlement, Fox's daughter will have the opportunity to experience many of the things her mother would have wanted for her. In court documents, estate lawyers outline these hopes, including continuing golf lessons, attending a prestigious college, and having a beautiful wedding. Thank you for watching this in-depth look at the tragic case of Morgan Fall. It was digital evidence and the dedication of investigators that ultimately brought her killer to justice.